What's up, guys? I'm SaltEMike, and this is your Star Citizen Week in Review for April 24th, 2023. 3.18.2 is finally out, and they didn't fully wipe, and then they turned on Xeno threat, and the best information about Star Citizen that we've had in probably the last year came from a player-run event in Germany. All that and more on today's Week in Review. And as always, if this is your first week in review, this is where I take all of the official Star Citizen news each week, put it into one video, and share some of my opinions about it. I also live stream on Twitch, twitch.tv/SaltEMike, starting at 6:30 a.m. Eastern Time every day but Monday, so I can get this video out to you guys. Now, we have a ton to get through this week, so let's jump in. And what happened with 3.18? And before we jump into the 3.18.2 live stuff, we did have a PTU patch on Monday, and it was around 3.18.2 where they fixed, again, the getting killed when you join a seat bug. It's very much quote-unquote fixed. People are still reporting it as an issue, and you're also now able to possibly customize Arena Commander ships, but I'm hearing that's not really working as well. So they've given you an arrow, a gladius, and a blade, all with kind of meta PvP components on them for 3.18.2 live. They snuck this out really like right after the free fly. I didn't even catch the launch. There was like not a lot of noise around it, and yeah, we spoke about all the stuff that's going into this from previous patches in previous weeks in review, but in case you didn't catch it, most of this is just density manager fixes because PES is too persistent and the servers are really dying with all the stuff around them. And they also had some fixes for like login issues that had persisted past the .1 login fixes that they had put in. For bug fixes, most of the major ones are sort of fixed. A lot of salvage issues should be resolved. The unlootable loot containers are also kind of better, but I'm starting to see them more and more as the days go on with this patch, and they fix some issues with prison, but not enough of them. Then for the wipe, there was not a full wipe the way it was communicated to us, and a lot of people were upset, and rightfully so. It would just be really cool if once, just that's it, during the 3.18 cycle, they would do anything that they communicated to us. It's just, for my frustration just comes from the standpoint of it's some occasionally just like embarrassing to be a part of this because they just can't get anything right, and it's kind of a joke. Now, the positive takeaway from that is that they didn't have to do a wipe. They thought they were going to need to, now they don't, and that's a good thing, right? If they had to do a full wipe, they would have done it. They didn't have to do it, and that's good. Now let's talk about Xeno threat. I don't know what they were thinking, but basically 24 hours after .2 goes live, they do the best thing they can do to kill any decent experience we could have had with 3.18.2 and just destroyed the server FPS by doing this event. It's also a great way to make some money for you as a player. So if you didn't play like me and you were kind of duped by the CIG communication, you are able to kind of just sit at Microtech L1 and collect money while the mission is live. So to recover from a full wipe, you guys are kind of able to do that quite easily through this mission. It's going until May 2nd. I don't know what they're doing here. This is so ridiculous to me. I know some people are saying they're having decent experiences with Xeno threat. Most people are not. And the issue that I have here is that we had 3.17 for an entire year. I don't care what they say about 3.17.2 and that they could have named it 3.18. It was a really horrible year for people who want to play Star Citizen. Then everybody is excited to play 3.18. Wipe comes, all that stuff. Super excitement around it. So much so that they completely break the game by all these people trying to play it. And then they run Xeno threat to make any experience that you could have had finally able to play 3.18. Now you can't. That's all I have to say on that. I got nothing to add. It is so frustrating. It is so annoying. And I'm just ready to play Star Citizen, and I can't. So let's talk about roadmap updates, where we talk about future patches, and hopefully those are going to be better. pretty minor update here, all things seeming outside of 319 now. So headhunter outfits, these are pyro gangs. Staying with the rough and ready faction, these are just another pyro gang still, so that's kind of confirmed there, where we weren't sure if it was going to be pyro gangs or gangs coming to Crusader. Then for mining missions, resource rush, same thing as the salvage missions, but it also seems to be resource rush is a version of the mining missions that are PvP focused. So that's kind of what's being shared here. I don't think all mining or salvage missions coming in 319 at least are going to be fully PvP centric, where I think we're going to get some lower risk, lower reward mining and salvage missions in the future that are more geared towards players not interested in fighting over resources, but just collecting them. Then package extraction, we heard about these more recently. You'll be extracting a package from Orson, and likely will have more to do than just a delivery mission, how they explained it in the past. And then data heist, speaking of more complicated, Star Citizen Live will go through in a lot more detail about these, so we'll talk about that when we get to video updates. But in general, all the additional missions just seem to be adding more variety to what we already have, and I think I'll take it. I think that's a pretty good thing. Let me know down in the comments below what you guys think. But with that, we got a lot to go through. We had a really big SCL this week, so let's talk about video updates. And for that, we had only a Star Citizen Live. ISC is coming back next week, and the first question that they asked was, what happened to mission givers?
So the thing that happened with the mission givers is that the team that owned mission givers went through some movement around of personnel, and so the ownership kind of fell away a little bit. But the narrative team now own mission givers, which makes a lot more sense because, I mean, they design the characters, they write their words, they build their lore, so it makes a lot of sense that they would own it. So they're also building their own designers in the narrative team. So there's actual people who design stuff and make things. So now they also have people to work on them and improve them. So there is definitely a focus on getting them up working better, and maybe introducing more or improving various things about them. So yeah.
So we heard on a separate SCL about Matt, this guy who works on the narrative team, that he is actively going to be making, I guess, improvements and additions to mission givers, not just narrative aspects, but their missions. So really cool stuff there. And then the next question is a bit of a two-parter. It's more about the data heist mission than it is about organizations, but it really started out with what organization missions might look like and if they're planning on doing any of them.
We kind of have a sort of a philosophy that the more complex the objectives are, the more they're intended for larger groups. For example, one of our missions that's fairly newly announced, it's on the roadmap now, the data heist mission. Mm-hmm. That one is a mission that a skilled player probably would be able to do on their own, but it's one of these missions that puts a lot of stress on that one player if they were to do it. You've got enemies that you're going to be contending with in the UGFs. On top of that, you're basically uploading data to a handler, like an offsite hacker. They can be interrupted, and when they're interrupted, someone needs to run around looking for codes to enter to servers to prevent them from losing their data, and then you've got to get to them before they overheat, and then you lose the data and you lose the mission. Anyway, point is, single player, is doing a lot of stressful things in one go. Right. But a crew of players, like a bunch of players who want to play together and make the most out of that, well-oiled machines, probably going to work their way through that and have one person doing this, one person doing that.
Now, I spent a lot of time on this. I could not for the life of me find where I believe they talked about the game not supporting organizations yet, and they're not able to do organization-based missions because of that. But they did talk more about, obviously the philosophy here seems good. More complicated, more group play, organizations, kind of the same thing. For me, orgs don't really need missions. They need an economy, they need purpose, they need something to drive towards. Maybe they'll do missions involving that, but just being a part of the economy outside of missions is something I expect orgs to kind of partake in more than anything. And then we got a question around looting components from missions.
Your missions coming up, the salvage ones? Is it salvage or is it the
I mean, salvage ones, you take them off, yeah.
Yeah, salvage ones, you could take them off, yeah. Yeah, so in which case, I guess the way that we probably would do this is we treat the wrecks as effectively like a loot box, so its loadout is potentially good. It's potentially got cool and interesting components on it. So if you happen to be salvaging this ship that we've spawned for you, and it's good, well, your reward is in the cool stuff you find, isn't it?
When it comes to salvage, your main thing you'll do is hull scraping. However, now with the item port detaching, you can take the guns off and the components and sell them. Not only that, we populate the cargo hold with random assortments of cargo. So there's extra value
random
in there.
Or
random.
A bit more chosen to be a bit more interesting to you.
We play with it. So you could go do a ship, you could scrape all of it, take all its guns in, and then go into the hold and it's full of like
something worth it.
Something that's incredibly expensive. So
all right, on this, hold that thought. We're going to talk a lot more about that in a little while. And yeah, it's really exciting. Cargo missions were up next, though.
So yeah, I love big cargo missions, but one of the fundamental pieces we need, because I don't want to give you cargo missions where you go up, click a terminal, it spawns in your ship. I'd prefer the flow to be nice. What I'd like, right? So cargo elevators. I want you to have to move the boxes, or in the future, pay someone to move the boxes for you. And I want that to feel like you are a delivery man who's loading your truck full of goods, going from A to B, maybe getting pirated, getting there.
You don't always have to be pirated.
Don't always, maybe, it's maybe. That's just an example, Reddit.
Yeah.
And then taking your boxes to the drop off. But I want a full, proper mission flow that makes you feel like a delivery man.
Yeah, and they spoke a lot about that at the start of the show. They really don't want to make missions that are incomplete, basically. The mission team makes missions based off of features that are added to the game. The cargo feature is not properly added into the game yet, therefore proper cargo missions are not added into the game yet. Once they are, they're very excited to get involved and start doing them, and the USPU team is actively working on those cargo missions, so pretty excited for that. And then lastly, reputation. The mission team now owns this, and what are they going to do with it?
Yes. Reputation, yeah, we've taken it over from USPU, and there's a few things that we're focusing on, and one of the most important parts we think we need to get out is reputation-based hostility. So we want it so that you can do missions for like the Ninetales in the verse, and when you do these missions, you gain reputation, and you can gain reputation to a point where you're allowed at their outposts because you're friends with them. You could be doing Siege of Horizon, and they won't shoot you because they think you're friends. But then what needs to come pretty much at the same time or directly after that is a like sandbox reputation hooks. So these are things like, if I shoot Ed, my reputation with Luke. You're right next to me. Listen,
it could be Jared.
If I shoot Jared, my reputation with the entire community goes down.
You apologize when you win.
I know, right? Yeah.
Anyway, sorry.
But your reputation goes down. If you shoot Ninetales, your reputation would decrease with them, and if you keep shooting them, they're gonna start hating you. So even though you could start,
it's not just shooting. It could be
these destroying their ships or anything. Yeah, we just want like ways of going right. The player's done this. It's against this faction, this reputation. So this reputation has allies of these people, so it's also going to a little bit affect them, but they're hated by these, so these people are going to get a positive outcome from your one action.
Yeah.
So we want to have, we're focusing on getting those because we think that's going to make the universe feel more alive and more influenced by your actions as a player.
For me, this is a really good start. It's basically describing long-term reputation as they've talked about in the past. I personally would have loved to hear about reputation-based rewards, things like that we've seen maybe with the Vandal Mask, stuff like that. Or the example that they're really giving, what's really exciting about that is, let's look at a place like Grimhex. Lawful players may not be able to land there. Ninetales won't shoot at players that are doing a lot of Ninetales missions. This would really make the game feel proper for the first time, and I'm really excited about that. So things like, places like Grimhex, where unlawful players instantly gain value for taking the role in the game that they are, because whatever things can be purchased at Grimhex that other people can't, all of a sudden the value of those go up massively, right? Then the rest of the show was about a man who helped create building blocks, Bone, and it was a really interesting interview. I think this was one of the best Star Citizen lives I've ever seen. It was a much shorter interview with Bones, but it was a detailed one. It was an interesting one, and yeah, I just thought it was really good, so props to them. Really enjoyed the show. Now let's move on to other updates, and we'll touch on that mission in the other update section, so let's see. All right, so we're going to start out with the sneak peek here, and this is something we've been seeing over and over and over again since CitizenCon this past year. It will add nearly nothing to the gameplay at the location in 319, but I can't stop staring at this image. It looks so good. The possibilities of building interiors, fingers crossed on those. It's just very exciting to look at this, and I'm hyped. Can't deny it. Now, another thing we're going to touch on isn't necessarily official, but it's coming from developers. So Con42 is a player-run convention in Germany. They do it every year. They've been doing it, I think, since 2016. It is so well put together. It is production value as nearly as high as CIG's production value, if not better, in a lot of ways. I thought the audio was pretty good in comparison to old CIG stuff. In comparison, right now they're doing a great job, obviously, but CIG's had its issues in the past, and it was really impressive what these guys did. Now, I am only going to highlight 3 things from this. It was an hour plus long of valuable information to nearly everyone out there. So link will be in the description for you guys to watch the full show. It's like 8 hours long. About 5.5 hours in is an English question and answer with Dan Truffen, Torsten, and Yogi. So it is really important people talking about really important things, and the first question is huge. It's really exciting.
So, the next one is for Torsten. Now that the first iteration of salvaging is playable in form of hull stripping, I would be interested to know how salvaging ship components is going to be approached. How will component inflation be prevented if it becomes possible to salvage components from destroyed ships?
Yeah, so how the item retraction will be solved is something that you will then be able to play in 319. So you will be able to actually try that out. And since this is then the first release or the first playable version of that, there is still some work to be done on our side. But the goals there are that we will take a similar approach like we also did with loot generation. That means that some items that you now are still able to buy from the shops might disappear from the shops, so that you will only find them on certain AI chips. Or then in addition to that, the prices right now are definitely something that also has to be adjusted to the current or the upcoming situation with 319. But for that we also need data to actually see how much the profit is for the item stripping aspect of that.
Like I said, this is huge, huge, huge. Right away, removing components that are really good from the shops, and you're gonna have to earn them. That is awesome. I know some people are really against that, but finally, gamifying more and more and more of the game makes playing the game more valuable. And it's not just about looking at your ships anymore, it's about playing with your ships. very exciting, very exciting, very exciting. The next question really ties into the last one.
Will we be able to ensure looted components when some components will no longer be able to be bought in shops? Customizing a ship with only lootable components will take very long and bugs can still destroy ships.
Can you repeat that, please?
Yeah, the question itself was, will we be able to ensure looted components when some components will no longer be able to be bought in shops?
Didn't I say that like already? So yes, there will be some components that will not be you cannot buy anymore.
I think the question is whether they will be able to insure the ones that they've looted because they're not available in shops. And I think right now there is no plan to do so. If you get some rare components that you just looted from somewhere, then be very careful where you use them. And they will become valuable, and they'll usually have some better stats, and they'll be of a different quality, and you'll have to be very careful with your components. Right now, the insurance mechanic for ships is incredibly powerful, and we're going to have to see how we make that not break the economy as much as it does right now. So right now, we're not looking into insuring ship items. So we're probably those are gonna be going away as soon as your ship dies.
To me, this is even bigger. It makes farming, weapons, components, everything finally worth doing. The fact that players will lose components, I think means players will finally have consequences for death. The comments around this insurance is also really interesting. I think there's a lot of people that are going to be upset. I think the question that was asked was about bugs still causing ship death. Am I going to lose my stuff because of a bug? Unfortunately, yes. And to those people, I guess we got to say it's an alpha, to the same way that I see in my YouTube comments all the time that it's an alpha when I want the game to be more like a video game. So I finally get to turn the tables on you guys a little bit, which is really exciting. And then the last one, in a similar vein, makes me chuckle.
Are there plans for player fleets that you can remote control? For example, to command a ship with NPC crew to facility A and sell at outpost B?
So I don't think at any point we want to turn this game into an RTS game where you command NPC ships. In general, we want players to be driving our ships. We want to have NPC assist them in this job, but never pure NPC ships unless they're just enemies or things that are part of a mission or something like this. What we do want to offer in the future is some way of commanding a fleet, which means being able to give strategy game-like orders to your buddies in your fleet rather than NPCs. So we want to be able, I'm the fleet captain and I say, you, and you attack that ship, you, and you make sure nothing comes from this direction. So we will try to offer an interface that allows you guys to send commands to your fleet, and the people will receive them, and it will be up to them if they cooperate or not. This will not be like an RTS game where all the units agree with you. These are actual humans, and there's human error or sometimes sabotage. So we just want to keep that open for the players rather than for NPCs 100% control ships.
Everyone out there sharing their fleets on Twitter and Reddit are seething right now. Sorry guys, you're gonna need friends. You're gonna need to fly all of those ships if you want to use them at the same time. I'm pretty sure this was the first time that they've ever really clearly demonstrated that this is how NPCs, this is the limit that they want to take NPCs in your ships, and all those ships that you purchased, you can't fly them all at the same time. Somebody else is gonna have to. So pretty crazy. Really like to see it, and really enjoying it. And guys, that'll do it for the show. So thank you again for watching Week in Review. I want to say, thank you to all the kind words. I talked to the Con 42 guys. Basically, there'll be a full React video up on my React channel later in the week. I really think they deserve so much praise and so much credit, and I wanted to kind of pull out a few things for you guys to get enticed to go check out their content on YouTube. Link will be at the top of the description down below. And thank you again for watching. As always, like, subscribe for more Weeks in Review like this, and comment. Let me know what you guys thought. If I missed anything you agreed with, anything you disagreed with, and I'll see you guys next week. And yeah, I apologize for my voice. I've been very sick, and just pushing through to try to get this done was difficult. So make sure you leave a like on this video for Sick Mike. All right, guys, and I'll see you guys next week.